We'll now hear from Wendy Fields. Ms. Fields recently joined the Democracy is she here? Initiative Education Fund as Interim Executive Director. The Democracy Initiative is dedicated to public education for member organizations about the necessity of broader democracy reform. Previously, Ms. Fields spent 17 years with the United Automobile Workers in Detroit, Michigan. Thank you, and welcome.
Good afternoon. Let me thank the members of the DNC Platform Drafting Committee for allowing me to speak on behalf of 30 million members of the Democracy Initiative. Groups like the Sierra Club, Greenpeace, Communication Workers, Common Cause, NAACP, and the AFL-CIO. Our democracy is under siege. The political system is overwhelmed by wealthy donors and corporate money, and the fundamental democratic value of one person, one vote is under attack in states across this country. The 59 organizations that have united under the Democracy Initiative, representing civil rights, labor, voting rights, environmental, democracy, and other like-minded organizations, bring together voices who know that we must break free from our individual issue silos to build a movement sufficiently powerful to create the long-term change our democracy requires and our constituents demand. Combining the power of organizations that work on money and politics with those that focus on voting rights and linking these issues together boosts the prospects for winning on both. To not do so would be the equivalent of tying one hand behind our backs. We collectively understand that achieving success in civil rights, climate change, women's rights, workers' rights, racial and economic inequality, the very same issues that will be reflected in the platform of this party, and positions on which candidates will run are all inextricably linked to the victories on core issues of democracy. We are calling for an end to the corrupting influence of corporate money in politics, preventing, yes, Representative Ellison, the systematic manipulation and suppression of voters, and addressing other barriers to significant reform, like the Senate filibuster rules, which the nation witnessed played a key role in our democratic process just this week. There are two obvious truths about the increased threats to the fundamental principles of political equity in this country: the rise in the systematic voter suppression and disenfranchisement, and the massive influx of big money in American politics. While there is no one silver bullet to reinvigorate our democracy or expand our democracy, we all know well that there are a suite of comprehensive reforms and fixes that could breathe life back into our democracy, and none of them work alone. Many have come before me, and many will come after me, and talk about the specific policies we must include in the platform. A few highlights: we need strong disclosure laws. No one should be allowed to secretly funnel money to and elect officials who will then grant contracts. We need to implement the recommendations of the Bipartisan Presidential Commission to make registering to vote simple, easy, and modern. We need citizen-funded elections. Yes, a reflective democracy today is required. We need pass the Democracy for All Amendment to overturn Citizens United. And we need to just simply restore the Voting Rights Act. But let me add this critical point. The next President of the United States must have the political will to use their political capital to join with us and mobilize millions of Americans into a powerful movement that will force action on money in politics and voting reforms in Congress, in our state legislators, and in our city councils. We need a pro-people, pro-community platform from both political parties. We applaud you and your efforts to recognizing this problem, but what we truly need is action that demonstrates that fixing our threatened democracy is a top priority, and that priority will be reflected in the choices you make as to where to invest those resources. We all know the problem, and we all know the solution. We know that we have a broad political force is building in this country to create change. Actions are already underway. They've been taken in Oregon, West Virginia on automatic voting. We're seeing same-day registration, public financing in Seattle, Maine, and Montgomery County, Maryland. And we are committed to building on that change. And what we, the American people, need now is a major commitment of this next president and the Democratic Party leadership to invest the political will and resources necessary to win, and to make clear that the president and elected officials supported by the party and accountable to the voters will not rest until that is accomplished. And yes, I hailed from Michigan, and I want to say to you, Representative Cummings, you can't go without talking about democracy without talking about Flint. And I want to appreciate your efforts on the recent hearing and say, yes, we are better than this, and the people are demanding better than this.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you. There has been quite a bit of mention of Flint throughout these proceedings. I will be in Michigan on Saturday night for it. But we will not let that go. We as a party, because we just cannot have a society that allows collateral damage. And just the idea that 10,000 children could be poisoned and harmed, not till tomorrow, but until they die. We cannot have that, and we're going to keep pushing and pushing hard. Congressman Ellison, and then Mr. Gunnels. You didn't have anything? Congressman Ellison.
Two quick questions. First one is, what is your position on emergency manager laws for insolvency? Are these undemocratic? Does the necessity of the moment override considerations of democracy, as some have argued? That's my first question. My second question is, in the short term, okay, we got voter suppression, we got all this bad stuff that we know that we got to change, and I'm all for it. But what should the Democratic Party say about just prioritizing voter turnout? Even if we're getting blocked in these other legal ways, should we just look at this as a legal matter, or is there some advocacy that we should and can do in the short term?
Okay, let me take the first one and say the initiative has no position on the emergency manager, but it should be reformed. In my opinion, very clear, it should be reformed. In no day in this planet should anybody have their democracy eliminated because they live in poverty. And in that state, let's talk about tax reform. Let's talk about rebuilding and investment. Let's talk about where some of the best jobs in this country were, and let's get back to that. So that's my first passionate appeal. What can we do? You are absolutely right. This is not about litigation. We didn't win the civil rights battle on litigation. We are not going to win. We are going to win when we have those reflective folks in Congress and in the state capitals. I think it's very simple. I think if you can pass, we have to restore faith in government, which means bills have to pass. Look, I've done GOTV in many urban cities across this country. And when you knock on a door and you tell people they got to come vote, they want to say why. It is time to step up and deliver. Delivering on the promise of democracy is the point here. And when we can look our brothers and sisters in the eye, regardless of black, Latino, young women, what do I say to my two young women? So I think same-day registration, getting out there, really thinking about what we're passing legislatively. Inequality, racial inequality must be on the forefront. Really being there on the ground. I can say that, and there are, the Black Lives Matter movement, there's a movement afoot. There's a climate change movement afoot. They can register. They are registering people to vote, but we have to commit to them that we're going to deliver for them, not just take that vote. So,
thank you very much. Thank you.
it's my pleasure.
Thank you.